tell me the nature of Bachelor in Newfoundland and in your work.
Well, in the area where I grew up, and maybe this is everywhere, I get kind of confused because I have sort of blinders on, I guess, with my work, but you know, when I was growing up anyway, in the 50s and 60s, you know, somebody like my mother would say, oh, so-and-so, poor so-and-so, you know, he'll always be a bachelor. You know, you could always tell the bachelors in the town. Very small town I grew up in. And nobody really ever said spinster or old maid so much, but a bachelor, you know, that was a cause for some worry, you know, a bachelor. The women really wanted to make sure that the men had a woman to take care of them. Somehow, like, the old maids could very well take care of themselves and that, but there was always this kind of longing to take care of a bachelor, I suppose. I just love the sound of the word. You know, a lot of poetry for me is sound of words. I can even, sometimes I can't hardly even pick up a book of poetry without, and say I'll read a couple of lines and go, oh, you shouldn't put those two words together. And I'll immediately close the book and won't go back to the poet. It's horrible, really, but you know, that's a lot of it for me now. I could probably pick up my own books and go, oh God, you know, same thing. But I try to, I don't know, but the word bachelor to me is so rich. It's a very rich word. And it is an old word, I suppose, you know. It's not used a lot. That fascinates me.
Tell me about Bill, because Bill, I guess, is a bachelor at the beginning, and he shows up in at least 3 of the poems, right?
Yeah, no, Bill is my father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sounded like a man who was awfully close to being a bachelor.
Oh yeah,
but for the grace of your mother.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Would you read one of the poems with your dad in it?
Sure. Okay, it's called Storm. Heavy rain blowing in sheets woke me. At the window I looked to sea, out past the harbor, wondering if there were boats out, remembering my father's death and life. I had walked into the hospital ward as he was coming up from under the anesthetic, his arms stretched over his head, tracing swift, definite movements in the air. A voice behind me said, "Don't worry, love. He's mending sails, and then he's tacking home." I sat down by his bed, tranced as he was, my eyes following the fragile web of his fingers. Later, when he was himself, he whispered, "Do you know who that is in the bed across the way? That's Captain Jim Harris. Go speak the Portuguese to him." We talked of Aveiro, Oporto, Lisboa, of the sun and the wine and the fado. I felt my father's pride at me speaking Portuguese to the best sailing captain out of Placentia Bay. My father, so tiny in the bed, time stealing him from me. I sat and listened to him and the captain talk of weather, fish and old schooners, what he'd talked of all his life. He'd call tonight a bad one. Hurricane Louis would drive him from his bed, send him down the hall in his stocking vamps, checking the stove, the doors and windows, making us warm and watertight. And tonight I feel like howling into the fury to bring him back safe to me.
Can you pick another one of your favorites?
Okay, I'll read the short one called Me and Ye. I called your dog a she before I knew she was one, but sure, she had to be a she, didn't she? One day will you take she to the seashore? Sure you will, I'm sure, and would you mind if I went along with she, to see the sea and ye walking alongside she? It's been Newfoundland tongue twister for you.
Yeah, I read that one and went, yeah, that's definitely just, you're having fun.
Yeah.
Can we get back to the notion of bachelor again? Because I still haven't processed it, but there's something more than just bachelor happening there.
Maybe it's old Newfoundland. You know, maybe by picking the bachelor, I am holding on to a sense of old Newfoundland. I do a lot of my work comes from interviews with old people, because I do quite a bit of collecting of the oral history of Placentia Bay. I think, you know, I mean, there's really not going to be any more, there's no more bachelors. I mean, I don't know if you're married or not, but I don't think I'd call you a bachelor. You don't have the tweed jacket and the vest and the white shirt. You know, that's it. And that's old Newfoundland. My father, although, I mean, my father was kind of a married bachelor in a way, although my mother probably wouldn't be happy to hear that, because I'm sure they had to have sex to have us all. But, you know, the idea of the old Irish Newfoundland bachelor was that one guy, if say there were 7 sons and 5 daughters or something, one of them had to be sacrificed to the mother and the father, to the old people. And usually, a lot of times the father would die first, and so somebody had to be there to take care of the mother. So that, it's almost biblical in a way, that's sacrificing. And I've known a lot of them. I mean, my own brother, he's 4 years younger than me. My father's passed away. My mother is 93. She just went into a home last year. I mean, he was sort of, I can't say he was sacrificed, it's his own decision, but he's a bachelor. He's probably the last of the bachelors, his generation, in his 50s. Yeah. It's sort of it's romantic, but it's sad. There's a melancholic romanticism about it that has attracted me and made me miserable most of my life. No, I'm just joking. I like going into melancholic places. I find there's a lot of depth there. Yeah. Bachelors.
The book is Going Around with Bachelors, a collection of poetry. I've been speaking with the author, Agnes Walsh, the poet laureate of St. John?
St. John's.
St. John's.
Newfoundland.
I almost dropped the S.
Yeah.
The poet laureate of St. John's, Newfoundland, and Agnes Walsh's Going Around with Bachelors, published by Brick Books.